Hello, I'm Kads and welcome to today's video. So we are in the beginnings of the Bambus 4-leaf fusion and today is part of the summon rush. So we are going to be pulling some shards in order to acquire the rare from said summon rush. Now the portal is light with the red hue, which is fairly new because it is 2x on primals. Unfortunately, that does not include the 2x chance on the mythicals yet. So they haven't added that aspect in just yet. And so I expect it will be there maybe next year, or maybe once they add a few more mythical champions to make it worthwhile. But nonetheless, it is featured here. I'm not really caring about the primals just yet until they have the actual mythicals doubled. So for me, I'm just kind of stockpiling them. But it is worth noting that there is also a 10x going on for various different shard types, and the theme here is just AoE nukers. Now, I would say that these are a fairly decent selection of champions. Looking at the epics, Sinesh and Skull Crown are pretty popular in a blender composition, which is not as used today as it used to be in the past, but nonetheless, it still exists in some teams. Magnar is one of the best, I guess he's the best HP-based epic arena nuker in the game. And then Thylesia, pretty useful, primarily in faction wars, because she does have AoE decreased defense and Hex, so she can help you with the Valkyries. Weak affinity, but it's better than nothing. As far as the legendaries are concerned, Trunda, of course, super popular, relatively old meta for today's arena, but still very popular in Hydra now for abusing her A2. And Halfrack, you all know him, you all love him. He's one of the trolliest defenses in arena, where he's in Stone Skin with some food champion. You kill the food champion, and his passive activates, and he destroys your entire team if you're not prepared. But also very easy to counter if you're ready for that. Akrizia, of course, one of the best, if not the best AoE enemy max HP champion in the game. So a lot of people will definitely, a lot of whales, I should say, shall definitely be pulling for her. And relatively new Void Legendary here with Vitreous, the Anointed, who I've seen decent things about. He has an interesting kit. He's kind of a natural counter to a Yumiko / Warlord team, where if you lock him out, he will reset one of his abilities, one of his 2 abilities, and he will grant himself an extra turn. So you lock him out, he gets his A2 or his A3 back, and he's ready to go, which could potentially kill someone. So kind of niche, but also kind of useful, potentially. I don't know. I think we need a bit more time to play test him and see what the multipliers are. He does have a really high base attack. I think it's like 1700. So I think there's potential there. We'll see if he enters the meta in any way, shape, or form. But of course, my focus is solely on the summon rush here, and we can see that it's a pretty standard one. I will say I underestimated where the epic was in the summon rush, so apologies for that. It was a guesstimate, so sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But the epic here that is not required, in fairness to admit here, is all the way down at 5400. So you would need 11 sacreds, or I don't even know how many voids, but a decent amount of voids if you wanted to get all the way down there. Primals can help too. They are worth 200 a pop, so if you want to use them for this as well, pretty decent points. But yeah, this is not mandatory. So, from the free-to-play perspective, I always go for the 2150. That's what I put in my fusion plan if you want to check out that video from a few days ago. But I always plan on going just for the lower milestone, the 2150, so 4 sacreds and a bunch of mystery shards, and basically call it good. But I understand that Dungeon Divers artifact enhancements are relatively difficult to complete nowadays, so a lot of people might feel more compelled and more incentivized to go for the higher milestone epic, and 11 sacreds is a pretty hefty amount compared to the minimum we've seen, which was actually the last fusion strategy was Islan, which is all the way down at 3000, which is foreign to me because we haven't had that for a long time. But usually it's between 3,500 and 5,400 is definitely the maximum we've ever seen. And it usually corresponds to how well they being Plarium, think that the champion is going to be. So in this case, this indicates to me that they think that Bambus is a very, very powerful and worthwhile champion, which, as I said in my fusion plan video, I think he's a solid B-. So he's not great. He's not an Uko Pythion tier, but he's not like a Pixneal or who else? Loriaka, for example. He's not that bad. I think he's in the middle. I don't think he's worth 11 sacred, so I do encourage you to go for the rare and just kind of save your sacreds for something else. Or if this fusion is just not for you, then who really cares how high this milestone is? You don't have to do it. Doesn't matter. Even if it's higher than you'd expect, you're not doing the fusion, so it's not that big of a deal. But I do want to take a moment here to acknowledge that one of the themes on my channel is the power of preparation, and so I don't think it's enough to just complain that the milestones are high. We kind of know that that is a possibility now. It's happened a few times. I think this is maybe the 3rd or 4th time that a milestone has been at 5,400. So I'm not saying that you should always necessarily have 11 sacreds just in case, but make sure that you're prepared for potential fusions that you might actually want to do. Bambus might not be that, but in the future, make sure that you have somewhere at least 7 sacreds, maybe 10, 8, somewhere around there. Be prepared in case this is the milestone and you do want to skip some of the events, or just be prepared with 4 sacreds, because that's the minimum you're going to need, and then be prepared with more gems or more energy to do all of the events, just to get all the rares or all the fragments from the different types of events, because you guys should know what to expect by now. And if you don't, that's why I do all of the fusion plans all the way back, starting with Pytheon. And so you can literally go there and look throughout history and see what the previous milestones for previous fusions have been, and kind of judge for yourself how many supplies or how many shards or whatever I should have for upcoming fusions. So as you can see here, I already have 150 points, and that's from pulling mystery shards. There is a champion training tournament going on, so naturally I'm going to be pulling mystery shards to get some food. So we already did that segment of it, and we just have the 4 sacreds to go to get all the way down to the fusion rare. Another cool thing to mention, I did post it on my community tab on my channel here, but I did get lucky with my mystery shards, and I did manage to pull one of the fusion rares. So specifically this guy, the spirit one, so he's already level 40 because I did that yesterday. But that does allow me to skip one of his events, and I asked you guys what you would think, and the majority of people said Dungeon Divers, which does make sense. I was somewhat on the fence because Dungeon Divers 3, which is the one that corresponds to this rare, is all the way during Spider and Champion Training, the last Dungeon Divers, and so I didn't really think that it was going to be that big of a deal to do that one, because it's a pretty good overlap as far as energy consumption and usage for Dungeon Divers points. But I also saw my silver stack and saw how good I was. The other option was skipping the artifact enhancement. But as you can see here, we maxed that out. So I already made that decision. We're going to be skipping Dungeon Divers 3 as a courtesy of getting, I guess, Longsword Torx, that's his name. And so the benefit for me is that I do get to skip one of the Dungeon Divers events, so I don't have to worry about Dungeon Divers 3. And I also got to do a gear cleanse, which I kind of needed to do anyways, and that's why I went all the way out to the Epic Tome, even though I don't really need it. But it just, what I was clearing out happened to coincide with me getting all the way out to 6,800-ish. So enough of the preamble, let's get into the shard discussion here. As always, we start with the shard count. So you can see here that I have too many, honestly, too many ancient shards, 583. We have 274 on the voids, 5 on the primals, which doesn't really matter, and then 61 whopping on the sacreds. In this case, we are only going to be pulling the 4 sacreds required for the summon rush, because I do like to have an abundance of shards for POGO events and or guaranteed events, although they have not done a guaranteed, at least non-void, for a even void for a very, very long time. So hopefully those return, because I'm kind of sitting on a little too many shards, and I would like to use them in some practical way outside of just 2x's. If we hop over to my Mercy Tracker spreadsheet, which you can see I have made some improvements to, I did add a column for primals, because I do want to track my primals, because I kind of treat them in the same vein as I treat voids, where they're not super common as far as getting a lot of them or being able to pull a lot of them, and also hitting Mercy will take a very, very long time. So I want to be able to track that and just see how many legendaries, how many mythical champions I get over the course of my raid career. So the focus for today is, of course, the sacred columns, and you can see that we are 3 shards towards Mercy. So pulling the extra 4 today will not get us into Mercy. So with that said, I do not expect to get a legendary at all, but you never know, crazier things have happened. It's also worth noting that this is the exact situation I was in for the previous POGO event that kind of ended a few days ago, and I made the decision to not pull, even though obviously I do have an abundance of sacreds. I didn't want to gamble pulling 20, maybe 25, hitting the bad RNG streak and having to pull that many sacreds just to get the double legendary. So I wanted to wait. I like to do it when I'm closer to Mercy or already in Mercy. But let me know in the comment section down below, what would you guys have done in my position? I know a lot of people would just say, well, you have 60 shards, just pull them and see what happens. But put your thinking cap on and think about, you could get really, really unlucky. Mercy can go all the way out to 50 something sacred, specifically on a non-2x. So put that cap on and then think about what you guys would have done in my situation. As far as the wish list is concerned, nothing has really changed. Poison Exploders, Valkyries, Molly Tankard, the same 3 every single time. And again, I don't expect to get a legendary today. As far as epics are concerned, I'm just looking for duplicates of Sylvan Watchers, because I am 8 out of 10 on the epic Faction Guardian. So I just need one more copy of, or one more pair of Sylvan Watcher epics, and all of my Faction Guardians for epics will be completed. And why not? If I get a fusion epic, that would be pretty dope. I've already been fairly lucky just being able to skip a Divers with one of the fusion rares, so let's not get too greedy. But, you know, I will definitely take one of the fusion epics if it comes along. All right, so let's get into the pulls. We've got some space, we've got the cash, and hopefully we've got some pretty decent luck. Here we go. Sacred numero uno is going to be an epic, most likely. Is it a 10x champion? No, it is Grunch Killjoy. I think he's okay. He's somewhat underrated. I think he has a very, very powerful cleanse here on a 4-turn cooldown. because he will remove all debuffs, and then it will replace all of them with a continuous heal. So you can really swap from about to die to about to heal a ton. But it's on a 4-turn cooldown, so it's not the best. There's no block debuffs on top of it, so you're prone to getting frozen by a torment or something like that. So not the best cleanser in the game, but still an honorable mention as far as cleanser. I think he does also have bombs in his kits, or in his kits. I think he also has bombs in his kit, and they're not as powerful as some of the other bomb champions in the game. It's also on a 4-turn cooldown, so long cooldowns just make this champion not as viable, but still decent. Next, Sacred number 2. Who do we get here? It's going to be another epic, and that is OK Thylesia, one of the 10x champions. We already talked about her. Good for faction wars and secret rooms as well. I think there's an epic Nice Revenant secret room that I run her in personally in a stun set, because she does have 2 AoEs. So pretty reliable on landing the stuns and also placing the hex and decreased defense. Sacred number 3. We got 1 to go after this. Let's see what happens. Fusion epic. No, we got Jerag. Definitely an old school Demon Lord Clan Boss champion who has ally protection, increased defense on a 4-turn cooldown. So you would have to run him in a 4-3 ratio depending on your difficulty in Demon Lord Clan Boss. And then the pretty reliable decreased attack on the A1 single target. And the final Sacred of the evening, last one. Here we go. Another epic, most likely. Yes, we're building up Mercy. This is A-OK. And it is Zelota. Pretty useless as far as the epics are concerned. He does have a shield on a 4-turn cooldown. I thought it was 3-turn. That's even worse. 4-turn cooldown with continuous heal. He can do an AoE sleep, but it's not a 100% chance. And then he also has a chance to sleep on the A1, small chance as well. So sleep champion, I thought he was going to be good for like Sand Devil really early on, and we found various other ways like Muckstalker and Shogger and stuff like that work a lot better, or Godseeker Neri. So he never came to fruition for that concept. But yeah, so that's going to do it for the Summon Rush. Let's go double check and make sure that my math is correct. It usually is, but you never know. Sometimes I could be wrong. But if we come down here, we should be able to get the Fusion Rare at 2150, and we can call that Summon Rush complete and proceed with the rest of the Fusion. One last thing to mention about the Fusion. I did see Nubkex mention this in his videos, and I thought it was funny because I do this as well. But whenever I get, or essentially as soon as I get one of the Fusion Rares or Fusion Epics in the game, I make sure to come in here and just put them to 1-star Ascension. That puts them at a slightly less risk of being accidentally fed. Generally speaking, the Fusion notification thing is enough of a disclaimer to make me notice, but I know from a lot of people, like Chosen, for example, is very notorious for feeding Fusion Rares on accident. And so just if you need the extra bit of security, you can lock them as well if you're worried about that. Like hit the lock here, and so you can't, or you have to unlock them to feed them or something. You can do that stuff just to prevent yourself from accidentally feeding them, because that would be the worst thing in the world, to just screw yourself out of a fusion by accidentally feeding one of the fusion rares. All right, so that's going to do it for today's video. If I may, let me take a moment to shamelessly plug my clan cluster, because we are actively recruiting some members for our endgame clans. But Second Sens, or 2SN, our clan cluster, is a pretty good collection of relatively low spender, free to play, as well as some spenders in the game. We have clans that cover all areas of the game. Even from like your first day, we have a clan for that, and also all the way out to where I am in the end game. At the highest level where I am at, we do like to try and compete in CVC as well as the Hydra Clash. We do Nightmare Hydra, Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, etc. All those good things. So if that is something that might interest you, then you can click the link to join our Discord in the description box down below. I am fairly active in that Discord as well. I like to answer questions, help people out with things, or you can simply join as a visitor and still be able to interact with me or other clanmates in the clan cluster. As always, if you found this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.